It's used for preparing a comprehensive medical device submission for a 510K. It can actually be used for a lot of different things. We'll get to that in a moment. Vast majority of the time, it's used for 510Ks. It stands for Excellence in Software Testing and Assessment for Regulated Medical Devices. So most, like I said, we're probably talking 95% of medical devices do have this predicate approach. They do have a 510K. And so what can an eSTAR be used for? What you're seeing here on the right, this is the second page of the eSTAR template. And it's going to be asking, is this for the US FDA or even Canada? You can use it for Health Canada. The application purpose. You can select pre-market 510K, de novo, even PMA documents can be used. The FDA can be used for that. And then the application type, if you select 510K, then it's going to ask you, do you want a traditional, abbreviated, or special? So it can be used for a number of different things. We are only going to be talking about traditional 510Ks in here and doing a predicate comparison. Now, this is different. So if you're an old timer like me, and I started writing 510Ks back in about 2010, 2009, around there. Got my first one through in 2011. The format was everything. And we would have, you'd have all of your critical documents. You can see here, we have, this is a little small here, but it says, and this slide is supposed to be confusing on purpose, because I'm trying to show you how different the eSTAR is from the traditional way. So you have your indications for use statement, your 510K, your device description, your sterilization and shelf life, biocompatibility, software. All of these different sections within the 510K would all be kept in order. You'd literally have them in a 3-ring binder. You'd have in your files, your folders in your hard drive are all going to be all in the proper order. And everything's going to be very organized. The eSTAR is completely different. Those documents are going to be very similar. In fact, there's actually more requirements in the eSTAR than before because of updated guidances. So it does not make it easier. It's actually more, the eSTAR is actually more complex than the original way, but because of the new guidances, particularly with biocompatibility, software, cybersecurity. Those are all crucial, big changes with the FDA over the last few years you probably heard about. But these, but with the 510K eSTAR program, it does keep things in organized. So your format, when you save these documents in a folder, before you implement them into the eSTAR, which we'll get to that in a minute, those should all be kept organized on your own hard drive. Now, here are some basics of the eSTAR. And I apologize, this part's cut off right here, but it just says electronic submission template and resource for eSTAR. The status, like right here, it says status eSTAR complete. And what that is, that's just an indicator. These are actually from 2 different eSTARs right here. This is from a completed eSTAR. This one right here is from an empty new eSTAR. When you upload all of your documents, all of your testing, you answer all of the questions, you complete all of the fields, which will take, I mean, if you're doing it properly, you're talking about months of work, maybe even a year or 2 of work. And you have all of that, you populate everything in the eSTAR. What it will end up doing is you're going to have a real-time checklist, and it will say whether it is complete or not. It'll say either status incomplete, be in red, or it's going to say status complete. Over here on the left, you'll see it says it'll say a red bar indicates that it's incomplete, green bar means that it's complete, and then a gray bar means that it's not necessary, not required. You have your frequently asked questions, version history. This is the first page of the eSTAR. This is very, very critical to read through. And then you can see here, these are the bars that it's referring to. So you have a red bar here. If I input, if I upload a software firmware description, that's going to then, if I upload anything right here, it's going to change that bar from red to green. It doesn't mean that the software documentation is correct. I could upload a picture of my kid's lizard, and it will accept it and turn green. So that's all it means. It just means you just put something there. The FDA reviewer will determine whether that's appropriate or not. They're going to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. They do use AI and ML to review documentations now, which makes it actually a little more challenging. The FDA has gotten very, very good at doing very detailed reviews. I did want to highlight this software documentation, cybersecurity. I also mentioned the differences with UDI changes, biocompatibility. These are all things where the FDA has really ratcheted up their expectations in the last few years, just last 2 or 3 years. When you finally are complete, what you would do is you submit it through the FTP portal. This is not this process is a fairly straightforward process. There is an RTA checklist, which I mentioned earlier. And when you do, there are portions of the eSTAR which will say status, which will show the status, those green bars that are referred to. It'll show you whether it's complete or not. Then you can register for an account. You can sign in, you agree to the terms and conditions, you click on eSTAR, you drag and drop the browser, or you browse for the eSTAR and upload it. This submission process is actually fairly easy. You might want to do it with a professional just so it's uploaded properly to the FDA. And now I'm going to move on to the do's and don'ts. And then I want to actually back up a few slides because there are a couple things I wanted to still mention. So the do's, you do want to, like I said earlier, keep all of your sections, all of those required documents in a shared folder with everyone in your team as you're working on them, like a Dropbox folder or box or a shared intranet or something like that. But update all of those files, keep them in order, like in that earlier slide that I showed you, and then use the latest version of eSTAR. The FDA is constantly updating eSTAR. If you use an older version, like a 2.2 or something, that will be considered obsolete at this point. Right now, it's already at 5.6. They keep making changes, rendering older versions obsolete. I think you can go back to maybe 5.0 and that's still okay, but I can't remember. And then use Adobe Pro. I've had some bad experiences with using, you can't use Adobe Acrobat. You have to use Adobe Pro. They say you can use Phantom Foxit. They do say that you can use PDF Exchange. I've had some issues with PDF Exchange. They may have fixed those bugs. Then also, it's highly recommended, assign one person as the compiler on your team. You don't want multiple people making changes in the eSTAR because that's going to be your final document that's submitted to the FDA through the portal. And if you have multiple people going in and making changes, you want to make sure that's highly organized. Either one person knows who's making changes, you just have one person as the compiler. Review all necessary documents, guidances, and standards. This is something that's a big one. There's so many things that just because it doesn't mention it on the eSTAR does mention guidances. It does have excerpts of guidances and standards on the eSTAR that's built into the eSTAR, but it doesn't mean that those, but it's not completely. It doesn't necessarily include everything. It's not totally inclusive of all guidances and standards, but you are responsible to comply with everything. Make sure you click the save button regularly because the eSTAR still, I have a very fast computer and sometimes it crashes. And if it crashes and you've uploaded a bunch of information, then you have to start over. Don'ts. You cannot edit it after you've signed it. There is do not disclose intellectual property in the summary fields. So there are parts where you actually type in, just you complete a field, you answer questions. Make sure you're not disclosing IP, because that can be uploaded to an automated 510K summary, and then it will become public. So make sure that intellectual property is in your documents, but not automatically in your 510K summary, which can be automatically generated from the eSTAR document, which I would recommend. Just make sure that IP, you're careful about that. Don't underestimate the eSTAR. It requires the same amount of time and capital investment, and that all of that remains the same. I strongly recommend working with a professional that has done it before, that understands the process, knows what the FDA is looking for. Just because it is in a PDF documentation, some people will underestimate the seriousness of it and the difficulty of the FDA eSTAR. There is the guidances have been ratcheted up by the FDA in both software and cybersecurity, biocompatibility in many cases, rightfully so. This is 2025 now. And so I do want to go back to one slide earlier, because I think there's a crucial part of the eSTAR documentation that I didn't mention. And this one, right? So I talked about the organization. You want your documents to be organized in this way, eSTAR traditional 510K. Those arrows are intended to scare you. But if you go right here, if you look at like software documentation, and you click on these question marks in these blue boxes on the right, what will happen is it will pop up an excerpt from the guidance, just either a summarization or a quote from the necessary guidance. I recommend that. Use that. But remember, you still have to read the guidances. This does not include all of the information that's required. So just be careful about underestimating the eSTAR. Just because you populate everything, you get your green bars on the left and it says eSTAR complete, you could be in for a long road ahead of you. But if you do have any questions, please contact me through my website. You can call me on my phone. I'd be happy to work with you. I've done this many times. I've worked with a lot of different kinds of products, a lot that are EMC and software, cybersecurity heavy, and I look forward to hearing from you. Good luck.